Segment 2 with Mom. The years of meeting Dad and finding religion. And go.
Okay. I never really dated in high school. In fact, I wanted to go to the prom with a boy sitting in front of me in my classes because we were sat alphabetically. I really liked him, but he invited the girl behind me to the prom, so I never got to go, which really was a crushing blow to me. I felt very inadequate as a young woman, as a teenager. I felt homely. Nobody ever asked me out on a date. And so after I got into nursing school, I still didn't date. So for those 3 solid years, and that's summer, fall, winter, and spring years, never went anywhere, but studied hard and graduated. After that, I started working in the recovery room. No, I worked in intensive care briefly for a while, but that proved to be real taxing.
Isn't there a John?
Yeah. In the recovery room, I met this orderly. His name was John. And
This was in Chicago still?
Yeah. And he was, after the fact, considered to be a playboy. And he wooed me, and I fell in love with him. I find myself getting goosebumps when I'd see him, and excited that he was coming into the recovery room and stuff like that. But we had a rocky relationship, and he was dating other girls at the same time, and he would take me out to bars and drink beer and dancing and things, and we got pretty intimate, but I knew that there was no future with him. And then something happened to really make me question whether I should stay with him. Carolyn, my girlfriend, said, "Don't get involved with him because he's going to play you." And so he did. And I decided that was it. And at that same time, I was looking for the truth of the gospel. I mean, I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something. Because I said, why am I saving these patients' lives if there's nothing else? And so I went to the First Presbyterian Church on Michigan Avenue. I went to my girlfriend Lynn's church, Lutheran church. I went to a congregational thing on North Avenue with I don't know who. And that's when I saw the picture of Christ. And I thought, there's got to be something. And so I searched and searched and searched. And every time I'd walk into a building of a religious denomination, I would have to leave. I just felt it wasn't the right thing. And so I just couldn't find anything. Then I was a roommate with my girlfriend Carolyn up in this high-rise building after graduation. Beautiful place. I mean, it had everything I ever wanted. Right on the lakefront, you could look out our window and see the lake. We'd go sunbathing on the roof and at the beach. And I had it really good. And then my roommate had a missionary come to our home, our apartment.
Just randomly?
Yeah. She had dated him. She was a dental student at Northwestern. I was not dating anybody. And so I sat in on I didn't sit in, I was in the bedroom while they were having their conversations, their discussions. And it just clicked. I said, Carolyn, I want to have these discussions myself. And so I set it up with Elder Michael Dennis Appleby, I'll never forget his name. And we had our little sessions, and as soon as he said, we have a mother in heaven, that did it. I knew that was true. No other church taught that. No other church said that. And so I investigated the church.
Mother Mary, you never?
No, I didn't believe in that.
Okay.
I couldn't see worshiping her. Must have been somebody else.
Yeah, Catholics really like Mary.
Yeah. And the rosaries and all that. I just couldn't get into that. And so it just hit home. And when missionaries told me that and told me about the Joseph Smith story, I just knew that it had to be true. And so I read the Book of Mormon and couldn't find the answer really until my girlfriend Carolyn called me at work one day, said, read Alma 32. And so I did, and that was the answer. That was planting of the little seed in your heart and letting it grow. And that just sold me. And I said, I need to be baptized. Anyway, so I was baptized in May, I believe, of '69. And decided, well, I'm not getting any younger, and there was no LDS boys in the neighborhood. And I had put 5 years into my hospital work and decided to move out to Utah.
Because that's where you knew the headquarters?
The headquarters of the church. And prior to that decision, I flew out here for a young women's conference. Or no, it's the women's conference prior to general conference in October of 70.
And that was the first time you'd ever come to Utah
Yeah,
for anything?
first time I'd ever flown. No, I had flown to Europe too prior to that. I had been to Europe once.
The Hawaii years?
No, yeah, the Hawaii years.
Okay.
After the Hawaii trip, we went to England, London, and Germany for a week stay. So a couple days in each places didn't really give you too much experience, but I got out, and had a great time. I was traveling really by myself. But anyway, getting back to the church, and so I asked my home teacher there. I got my patriarchal blessing after a year, and he said, according to your patriarchal blessing, you will be okay no matter where you go. And so I packed up. I never drove before. I bought my first Volkswagen, little red bug. Decided to move all my stuff by Beacons traveling, the truck. They picked up a load for me. And I drove out here by myself. My parents were freaking out. But I felt inspired to do that because there were no Mormon boys to find in Chicago. Even at the Logan Square ward I went to, there was nobody single there. Anyway, I drove out here, and it probably took me a couple days because I remember staying at a hotel or motel once along the trip. I had a map. I drove out by myself, and I didn't know this, but prior to that, my husband had driven out himself the month before. And so when I got out there for women's conference, he had already been there. And he settled in Sugar House. I settled in Sugar House, 3 blocks away from his apartment. We started finding each other after I worked at the University of Utah Psych Ward for a year, and then he decided all the nurses had to have a BS degree, which I didn't have. All I had was my diploma. So they fired me, and I went to the LDS Hospital Psych Ward. They hired me on the spot. That's where I met one of my friends, Jenny Gibson. She was working there as a registrar or whatever, and Gene, my husband-to-be, was working on the psych ward at the LDS hospital. And so we met there, and lo and behold, he was dating one of my friends in my home teaching group at the University of Utah that I used to go to, because there was singles wards and marriage wards and stuff like that. So I would attend church up there instead of my home ward, and we wound up having a party at my house. I invited all of my friends, and she was one of my friends when she was dating Gene, my future husband. And he came to my house, and I was interested in somebody else at the time, but he wasn't interested in me, and so Dad asked me out for Halloween of 1971. Halloween that was our first date. The thing that impressed him about our date was that I thanked him for the kiss that he gave me at the door. And so because we were working on the same floor at the LDS hospital, we saw each other, spent some nights together, because we worked there together, but there was nothing ever close there. But like I said, we went out, and then within 2 months, December of 71, he comes over and we're having a dinner party. I invited him to have turkey dinner for Christmas. And he invited me. He brought this great big huge box. It looked like almost a refrigerator box. It was huge. And inside he had taped presents to each portion of a string that I had to pull out of the box. And one was a bathroom scale, one was a turtleneck for skiing, various things. And then right at the end was a ring box. It looked like a pencil container, just for pencils. And I opened it, and there was a little ring box in it. And he had proposed to me with a little note on the ring box. And I was shocked because we'd only seen each other for 2 months. And I said, well, I'm not sure about getting married. He says, well, would you just take the ring and think about it? I said, sure. And then we found out that our parents were only a few miles apart from each other in Chicago. We were on the same college campground at Northwestern University the same day. He was getting his bachelor's degree in accounting, and I was getting my diploma in nursing. Didn't meet there. The elder that baptized me knew him, and he moved down to Rock Falls, somewhere in Illinois, And the missionary said, "You've got to come up to this ward up here because there's somebody I want you to meet." He says, "No, I'm going out to Utah to go to school." And so after that, I decided I was going to move to Utah. I didn't know him at that time. We had to meet out here at the LDS hospital. We had planned our wedding within 6 months. Got married in June of '72, and we started our life together. I don't know what else to remember.
You lived
We
in
went on a
Rose Park?
honeymoon.
Was that your first house?
Our first house was in Sugar House. It was on Hudson Avenue. So a one-bedroom house with a basement with a tenant that lived down there. We decided it wasn't going to be big enough for us if we wanted to grow a family, and so we found a home in Rose Park. It was a 2-bedroom little bungalow.
That's where I was born?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we had missionaries living in our basement there. We were active in the Rose Park 2nd Ward or something like that.
And then,
I became a primary teacher, and then we had our first baby. Oh, I got pregnant before we moved to Rose Park. And that was our first child, Jill.
Done.
We moved into Rose Park.
Okay.
Go. Okay. Had our first child in '73, and Gene was like the ward executive's, the financial clerk or something, and then he was going to college full time and working at the same time, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job after I found out I was pregnant, basically because in the psych ward it's not too safe for a pregnant woman to be with psychiatric patients who are violent. So
Did you
I
do a lot
quit my
of
job.
patient wrestling?
A lot of it, yeah. It was they were in locked rooms, and you had to unlock them to go in and take care of them. And then once I was pushed to the floor, and then my Gene said, "No more." So I stopped working then. After we had Jill, we had Karen, and she was born in '75.
Who, me?
Yes, you. And we decided, after she was probably about 2, we decided that we wanted to be closer to our families and bring the gospel to them, since none of them were members of the church back in Illinois. And so Dad applied for a job. Okay.
Keep going.
Job for a CPA job, because he had gone to school to get his master's in business and his bachelor's in accounting and bachelor's in, he got his CPA, certified public accountant position. So he got a position back in Rockford, Illinois, starting at $50,000 a year, and we thought, ho, so we just decided we're going to pack up. We sold our home, packed up our truck, drove back to Rockford in December of '77. We bought a home there. Everything seemed to be going good until the first 3 weeks after Gene started his job at the CPA, and he couldn't handle the job. So he quit. And then it was a struggle for those first 6 months. He finally got a job at a nursing home as a manager, I guess, because of his psychology degree. So he started there. Within 3 weeks of his job, I was driving to the post office.
Pause.